dances. These masks, these strange rituals have meaning. They describe precisely the relationship between a remote African tribe and the heavens. This tribe believes all life comes from a distant dark star, invisible to the naked eye. Recently, modern science was able to find this star and confirm its existence. Now we must ask, how did a primitive people, lacking instruments of any kind, discover a dark star hidden deep in space? In Central Africa, among fortress-like cliffs on the southern edge of the Sahara Desert, live a people called the Dogon. 1,000 years ago, fleeing from warring tribes, the Dogon found refuge here. The Dogon have endured and preserved mysterious ancient knowledge. Knowledge of an invisible star and its movements through the heavens. The hum of the bull roar is believed to be the voice of the sacred star. It calls initiates to a ceremony high in the cliffs. Dating back to a time when the Western world was locked in the Dark Ages, this ritual has taken place year after year. During the ceremony, the full spectrum of Dogon knowledge is revealed and passes from generation to generation. A circle within a circle depicts Saturn and its rings, which can only be seen with a telescope. A large circle and 4 satellites. The planet Jupiter and its moons. Most remarkable is this symbol. It represents the orbit of the Dogon star, a phenomenon deep in stellar space. Yet, no such orbiting star is visible from the Earth. It was not until this century that Western astronomers began to suspect its existence. A desert tribe called the Dogon, isolated in the African wilderness, may have identified a star invisible to the unaided eye. How is this possible? How could the Dogon possess this sophisticated astronomical information? Approximately 200,000 Dogon live in 300 villages scattered through their land. Throughout most of Africa, the simple melodies of the shepherds' flutes reflect the unchanging pattern of village life. On the surface, there is little to separate the Dogon from countless other tribes. What makes the Dogon different is a unique social harmony maintained by strong tradition. Among these people, murder, theft, and suicide is all but unknown. Greed is rare. Disputes are settled by debate in open forum. A goat has broken down a neighbor's wall and damaged his crops. The farmer demands repayment. The goat's owner insists it is the farmer's fault. He should have built a better wall. The elders decide that indeed the wall should be stronger, that both men should rebuild it and replant the crop. Millet beer marks the settlement. The Dogon believe in a perfectly ordered existence. They believe they are a part of something much greater than themselves. That each task, however menial, reaffirms their integral connection with the rhythm of the universe. In myths and symbols, the Dogon link the lowly with the lofty, the known with the unknown. Planting, harvesting, the winnowing of grain from chaff, each act of Dogon life has a practical and a spiritual value. The study of the Dogon has lured men like Dr. Hans Guggenheim, an anthropologist from Harvard University. He has probed the relationship between the Dogon and their mysterious dark star.
In order to discover this mystery, the mystery of Dogon knowledge about the stars, we have to begin by looking at the inside of their granary. Because the Dogon linked in their knowledge the science of growing grain and their understanding of the stars.
All ancient civilizations have needed knowledge of the heavens for the growing of grain. Just as ancient astronomers studied the positions of the sun, moon, and stars, Amendingi, the elder, climbs to a place among the rocks to observe the sun as it moves along a heelstone. He will determine the exact time when his people must sow the seed that will ensure their survival. This land is normally a desert. The rainy season is short. Planting must begin at precisely the right moment. The harvest which follows must last through the harsh months of drought. Life or death of the tribe depends on the accuracy of observation by men like Amendingi, the Dogon astronomer. As Amendingi studies the heavens, is it possible that he can reach beyond the visible universe? Is it possible that he can sense phenomena deep in space? The Hogan, the high priest of Eru, is the chief of Dogon religious knowledge. Selected more than 30 years ago by signs and prophecies, he lives a prisoner in a small temple compound. The Hogan is adored and provided for by his people, but cannot be touched by man or woman. He is the living repository of all that is known. His isolation from worldly needs and worldly concerns ensures that the sacred knowledge he keeps will remain pure. Should the Hogan be contaminated by human contact, he must be killed. Away from the clamor of village life, in caves and rock shelters, the teachings of the Hogan are renewed. Tribal legend tells us that beings called Numo descended from the sacred star and appeared before the Dogon ancestors. The Dogon were entrusted by the Numo with 366 symbols, given without meaning. The Dogon were charged with interpreting them and preserving the information for future generations. The symbols reveal an astonishing scope of astronomical knowledge, an infinite number of stars and spiraling worlds. After more than 5 years among the Dogon people, Dr. Guggenheim has gradually gained the confidence of the Dogon elders and acceptance into the inner circle of secret knowledge.
The Dogon believe the universe was born in a vast explosion, and as it opened up, everything that we know about and everything that the Dogon know about in the world came pouring out, and nothing was left except a shell. This empty shell became the star that they call the Pontolo, and that we call Sirius B.
In 1950, astronomers confirmed the existence of the Dogon star. At the United States Naval Observatory, Washington, D.C., Chief Astronomer Dr. Irving Lindenblad devoted years to the search for the dark star.
The Sirius system is a very interesting challenge observationally because it is very difficult to observe a star 10 seconds from such a bright object as Sirius A.
After the years of effort, Dr. Lindenblad finally succeeded in taking this photograph of Sirius B and its giant companion. The Dogon possess even more startling information about the star they hold sacred. They say that when it gave forth all its energy, it collapsed in upon itself, becoming incredibly dense and so heavy that all the earthly beings combined cannot lift it. The San Fernando Observatory, Sylmar, California. Dr. Gary Chapman is an astronomer specializing in the physical characteristics of stars. By splitting the light collected from a distant star into colored bands, its physical characteristics can be analyzed.
Sirius B is fairly normal in the surface layers, but we do rely on the calculations to tell us that the interior is essentially out of nuclear fuel. It's a dead star. We know from modern calculations that it has a very, very high density. It has a density about 5 million times that of water. And if you were to be on the surface of Sirius B right now, you'd be crushed very, very flat because the surface gravity is about 100 million times that of the Earth.
The symbol is explained. The knowledge preserved in rituals through the centuries has been confirmed. Beyond the Dogon knowledge of the dark star, the symbols reveal more information about the celestial universe. They correctly place the Earth and our solar system within the Milky Way, and state correctly that the massive cluster of stars is far more distant than the planets. The understanding of astronomical movements led the Dogon to investigate the human anatomy. They discovered the circulation of blood in the body long before it was discovered by the English physician William Harvey in the 17th century. These symbols and the knowledge they hold are the legacy of the mysterious Numos, the messengers from the dark star. Many cultures claim their knowledge was given them by godlike beings descended from the heavens. But the Dogons insist their gods descended from one star in particular, which they're able to identify and describe in detail. Does other evidence exist of this encounter between gods and men? In 1937, French anthropologists shot this rare film of the Dogon. They found the people in a frenzy of preparation for a huge ceremony. The scientists were told the funeral of an important man would soon take place. But all this was an elaborate deception designed to protect their secret knowledge. The anthropologists counted themselves fortunate to have the opportunity to observe the making of ritual masks representing the panoply of Dogon spirits. It would be years before the scientists would understand their true meaning. The giant ritual which the anthropologists witnessed was not a funeral at all. It was the Siggi. Occurring every 60 years, the Siggi is the most important ceremony in Dogon life. The Siggi is an event relating directly to the sacred star. The Siggi marks the completion of an orbit, the time when Earth, the giant Sirius, and the sacred star are directly aligned, the moment when the Dogon and their star are closest. For Western science to determine the orbit of the Dogon star required calculations based on decades of astronomical observations. Minute shifts in the position of the giant Sirius led astronomers to suspect the gravitational influence of an unseen companion. When computer studies of the data were complete, they verified that a small star orbited Sirius every 60 years, exactly as the Dogon claimed.
The interesting thing is that in their vision of the stellar universe, they arrived at the conclusion that it was the smallest invisible star that was at the center of the universe, that moved the universe and that held Sirius, the Sigitolo, in place and determined its course in an elliptical way, which they have painted and graphed on the walls of their caves, an ellipse which has been borne out by Western observations.
More than 4 decades have passed since the last Siggy. Only the oldest among the Dogon recall it, the greatest experience of their lives. It is from the citadel shrine of Yuga Dugaru that the order to commence the next Siggy will come. Here live the only men who claim they have actually seen the alignment between the Earth and the distant star. Elders of a secret society, they are the venerated guardians of the shrine, where they say a place in the cliff begins to glow when it is time for the Siggy ritual. What mysteries inspire these people to devote their lives to the keeping of a shrine, to the knotting of a rope measuring the time until a ceremony they will not live to see? In sanctuaries hidden among the cliffs, there is evidence of the antiquity of the Siggy ritual. The mask, called Na, dates from an early observation of the dark star. It is believed by scientists to be more than 300 years old. Masks for future rituals will be modeled on this example.
So what conclusion does one come to from the Dogon knowledge of the star Sirius? I feel they're one of 3 possibilities. A, that they have supernatural knowledge or extrasensory perception. B, perhaps they've been visited by creatures from outer space. Or C, that the whole thing is coincidence. And I must say, as a professional astronomer, I strongly side with item C, that it's coincidence.
How they managed to calculate this, we don't know. It is a mystery that we have been unable to solve and up to now, and that the Dogon are not going to tell us.
The average lifespan among the Dogon is 38 years. The Siggy ritual is held every 60 years. Yet, every Dogon youth learns the complicated movements of the dance, hoping he might someday participate in the ceremony. Each hopes that he will be the one to wear the grand mask. The grand mask, the symbol of the sacred star, turning in endless orbit around the giant Sirius. Former NASA space scientist Maurice Chatelain says there is no doubt that aliens have walked among us. By connecting the sites of ancient Greek temples, Chatelain has interpreted a pattern so complex, he is convinced it could only be the result of an alien influence. Another scientist says that prehistoric Indian rock carvings found in the western United States are actually electronic symbols known to every physics student today. Is it possible that our planet was an early destination for Earth visitors? Death Valley, California, one of the most inhospitable areas on Earth. Ground temperatures can reach 170 degrees. Dehydration can occur in minutes. It's the sort of place where life should not exist. Yet, one form of life now dominates this area. The burro, left here to die by miners nearly a century ago. An incredibly adaptable beast, the burro not only survived, but even multiplied. Is there an analogy between the burro in Death Valley and man on the Earth? Was life left on Earth by an alien exploration millions of years ago? How can we account for an unusual discovery made in recent years? From Utah, a fossil, a shellfish that has been extinct for 400 million years. Nothing surprising about it, except it was found embedded in what appear to be shoe prints. Could these prints have been left behind by Earth visitors? Maurice Chatelain, the former NASA space scientist who helped man reach the moon and author of Our Ancestors Came from Outer Space, definitely believes that aliens have visited the Earth.
It seems that the first landing occurred about 300,000 years ago.
Chatelain believes that ancient cuneiform tablets discovered in Iraq and only recently deciphered give detailed accounts of aliens arriving on Earth and engaging in crossbreeding experiments with humans.
And in the beginning, the experiments were not very successful. They obtained the Neanderthal man, which was a very big man, but not very intelligent. And they had to make many experiments before they could succeed. And this occurred about 60,000 years ago. At that time, they obtained the Homo sapiens man, or modern man, which you can also call the Cro-Magnon man. And this was a very bright success, and because it was almost exactly like modern man today. Some people ask me how it could be that a scientist like me, who has been trained in physics and mathematics and who is working on the Apollo program to go on the moon, could believe in stories of astronauts coming from outer space and landing on the Earth. Actually, it's very simple, because in the beginning I was very skeptical. But little by little, I started discovering my own evidence, and I was convinced, there's no doubt about it, astronauts from outer space have landed on the Earth.
One of Chatelain's discoveries was made while examining satellite photos of the Aegean Sea. At first, there didn't seem to be anything significant. But then, Chatelain began to see a pattern emerge. By connecting the locations of 12 sacred Greek temples, Chatelain formed the giant Maltese cross more than 300 miles wide. Chatelain says the Greeks didn't know of the cross, and its perfectly formed dimensions could have only been laid out with the use of an orbiting satellite, like the one used to photograph the area you are now looking at. Throughout history, civilization builds on top of civilization. This we know. Once a site is sacred, it remains sacred for succeeding generations. Did the ancients build on these sites because Earth visitors had selected them?
I think the cross was left there as a hint to show a modern man that there are powers beyond his own.
To find out, we presented the mystery to Dr. Lawrence Clevenson, a statistical mathematician with California State University, Northridge.
What I've done is to program this computer to randomly place 12 points on the screen. In a sense, then, the screen represents that area of the Aegean Sea where the 12 temples are, and each point that the computer randomly chooses represents a random choice of a temple. Then I also asked the computer to count the number of symmetric patterns, like the cross, and the odds against getting a symmetric pattern are approximately 3 quadrillion to 1. So that if the computer produced a pattern, a randomly chosen pattern, every single second, it would take approximately 95 million years for it to produce a symmetric pattern.
Another discovery of Chatelain's is tied to the enigmatic Egyptian pyramids. Why were they laid out astronomically, so that passageways are aligned with certain stars? Could the pyramids, like the Maltese cross, have some connection to Earth visitors? This satellite photo of France reveals another pyramid. It's not yet visible, but when you connect the locations of 3 prehistoric stone temples, like the one at Stonehenge, it magically appears. A giant triangle, hundreds of miles across, that is proportional to the Pyramid of Cheops in Egypt. Another unexplained phenomenon of the French Triangle. When you superimpose the locations of known modern uranium mines, they align themselves along the sides. Could Earth visitors have had the same need for the precious metal, uranium, as we have today? Could France have been the site of an extraterrestrial mining operation?
I think there might be another use for the French Triangle, because its sides, the sides of the triangle, could have been used as beacons for landing of the spacecraft, like re-entry corridors, similar to those we were using in the Apollo program, you know. It was called a footprint too. It was the area on the surface of the Earth where the spacecraft could land. There's another interesting point about the triangle. It is that if you follow one of the lines, it leads you halfway across the world to the Nazca Plain.
In Search of teams have explored the Nazca Plain in Peru and have yet to fully understand these drawings and patterns. Certainly, this does not appear to be a landing base. Many believe Earth Base 1 was in the Western Hemisphere. Not here, but in the southwestern United States. The life of the American Indian has been well documented by modern archaeologists. Indians are a proud people who adapted well to a harsh environment. A people with primitive beliefs based on what experts considered superstition and myth. We have long been taught that the Indian was the first man in the Western Hemisphere, that he came here from Asia, having crossed the land bridge that once connected Alaska and Siberia. The crossing was supposed to have taken place 20,000 years ago. If this is true, then how can we explain a skull found in California? It has been dated back at least 48,000 years. Some believe the presence of man in America goes back 250,000 years. If the American Indian did not enter this continent by way of a land bridge, then how did he get here? If we look to Indian legends, which have been passed down from generation to generation, we find a possible answer. In many tribes, a common story is told that Indians came from other worlds, traveling to Earth to find a better life. We cannot easily dismiss such folklore, for no matter what the language or where the tribe is from, the story is the same. In one tribe, all things were said to have begun on the first world, a great rock in a sea of mist. Is this a reference to the planet Venus, which is recorded in the legends of many different peoples? From the misty world, the spirits traveled to the blue world. Is this the blue world the legend refers to? Modern man didn't call the Earth blue until he had the benefit of photos taken from space. And how is it that the Apache god and Egyptian god, Amun-Ra, are similar in name and appearance? Could Amun-Ra have been a space traveler who visited both peoples? There are also identical references to the boat of the sun. Might not a spaceship be referred to as a boat of the sun? And how is it that the Hopi symbol for Earth is identical to symbols found in the Mediterranean? At the end of this hall in the Arizona State Museum, an artifact so unusual, scientists are uncertain what to do with it. It's called Elephant Slab. And carved on it, strange markings that resemble some alien alphabet. Among the mysterious symbols, one clear figure. An elephant? If an Indian carved this stone, how did he know what an elephant looked like? An animal only found in Africa and Asia. To the Hopi Indian, the Kachina dolls are representations of spirits. The Hopis claim that some of the Kachinas are spirits from other worlds who came to Earth to teach the Indians agriculture, weaving, and the necessary arts. Are they spirits or space travelers? Some Hopis claim these could actually represent alien beings. In the ceremonies of the Zuni tribe, it was customary to cover the body with a thick layer of mud. Another part of the ceremonial costume was a rather unique head mask. no one can satisfactorily explain why it resembles a space-helmeted astronaut. In another tradition, gourds were fashioned into peculiar shapes. Was it merely a coincidence that some of the gourds resembled UFOs? The Indians referred to them as such and used them in their ceremonies. Not normally associated with the American Indian is the boomerang. Yet it was a part of their culture as it was of the Aborigines of Australia. Seemingly simple, the boomerang is a highly sophisticated aerodynamic foil, a flying wing. The Indians say they were taught to use the boomerang by gods who came from the stars. If the Indians had left us written records, we might have the answers to some of these mysteries. Obviously, that is not the case. Yet, in their own way, the Indians did leave us valuable information. It's what we call their art, where they chiseled at stone, painted on rocks, and scraped the earth. Many of the Indians were accomplished artists, as evidenced by these accurate representations of wildlife. Which makes it difficult to explain these pictures. And from all over the western United States, strange figures that bear uncanny resemblances to spacemen. Could these drawings indicate a connection between the Indians of the American West and travelers from other worlds? Hoping for an answer, we spoke with Preston Monongi, member of the secretive Hopi Kachina Society.
The legends definitely tell of these spacecraft and people riding in them and making contact with us, which they have several times just in the past, not too long ago. I would like to really go into it more, but I cannot go into it more because our religion forbids it, and so therefore I can't go into it any further than I've already gone into it.
Of all the Indian petroglyphs, none perhaps is quite so unexplainable as these. No one has been able to decipher them. Los Angeles engineer Charles Ruggles thinks he has discovered the key to the mysterious petroglyphs.
These are scientific drawings. They could be taken right out of a physics textbook. They show sine waves, they show triangle waves, they show square waves, they show electromagnetic circuitry, they show switching, they show almost everything that we could think of in a modern electronics and electromagnetic laboratory. These petroglyphs tell a very intriguing story, and it's very much worth investigating. The Indian folklore tells about two flying objects that collided in space over Death Valley, and one of them fell in Mustard Canyon. The folklore doesn't tell where the other one fell. Now, with these two objects, which made forced landings or actually fell, there was damage, and someone came to repair them. When these alien people disassembled these spacecraft, they did it in such a way that they could hopefully reassemble them. And as they disassembled it, it was recorded on apparatus such as this or other forms of communication. To the Indians, these symbols which these aliens made were the symbols of the gods and magic to them. And that's why they reproduced them in the area.
One of the most unusual reports in recent years tells of a discovery made near the Coso mountain range in Southern California. As represented here for In Search Of, 3 rock hounds were out looking for interesting samples to add to their collections. They had already been looking for hours that hot day in July. What they found looked innocent enough, a geode common to that area. Yet, it somehow seemed different. Later, after they sawed the rock in half, they felt they had made a unique discovery. That inside was a strange ceramic-like material, resembling some electrical device, like a spark plug. How old was it? While the findings have never been verified, the rockhounds claimed that a geologist placed the age of the object at 500,000 years. X-ray results were published, and they were astonishing. The object did not appear to be naturally formed. No one today can explain its existence. Is this confirmation that Earth Base 1 was located in the southwestern United States? There have been many theories which say that life has been deliberately sent to Earth from another planet. Some experts ridicule these ideas, and such theories might have remained unbelievable, except for disclosures such as these, which continue to be found year after year.